Welcome to the Kolbecast, episode 261. Thank you for joining us. Today is part 2 of our conversation with Lisa Popcak. For those of you not already familiar with Lisa, she's a homeschooling mother herself, along with being an author, radio host, vice president of the Pastoral Solutions Institute, and more. We begin with advice to families new to homeschooling and move on to the importance of building family relationships, navigating the difficult times, and moving into life after homeschooling. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Kolbe homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Kolbe Academy.
I'd love your guidance or encouragement on a few specific areas. Is there more to say? Specific guidance for those early years? We've covered like the young ages, but maybe like people who are new to homeschooling in the first place. Do you have any particular guidance for those who are just new to it at whatever stage, like whatever their kids' ages are?
First thing to do is check with your state and see what their requirements are, not just in terms of testing and proof, but also what they expect you to cover for the year. So we actively chose to live where we live. We live in Steubenville, Ohio, because A, we wanted people around us who were dynamically Catholic, and B, we wanted homeschooling rules that made sense to us. So if we just cross over the border of Pennsylvania, that's a whole nother thing. In our state, we had a list of things that we had to cover in terms of subjects. We were allowed to choose how to cover them, and we handed in how we were going to, what books we were going to use or resources we were going to use to cover each of those subjects. We handed that in. We promised to do 120 hours a year. We either had them tested at the end or had somebody go over their files, and we were golden. My friends in Pennsylvania had to account for like every single day, but they will at least tell you what the requirements are. And then you can say, for my state, do I feel comfortable kind of picking and choosing my own textbooks, my library resources, the projects we're going to do, my science, kits and stuff that I want to order? Or am I in a place where I need a ton of guidance and I will feel better about signing up for Kolbe or getting at something else that will work for us, as long as you have some flexibility in it to be able to say, hey, this is how far we got this week, this is why, and you're working with somebody who can help you get things done, but also have flexibility. Once you know what subjects are required every year, that allows you to figure out, okay, well, I think this would work for this child, and maybe I could use this for everybody. And so I always made sure that we were doing reading and math on the age level the kids had to be on or had reached, competency in. The rest of it, I didn't have time to figure out, history for kids who were 13 years, spectrum. So we did history together. And the little ones would like the stories. We'd be reading, an American Girl book on that timeline, and then we'd read something else that was older, but the little ones still liked the stories that were there. Science, we would learn the more difficult science, but the little ones would be learning about that at their level. So I didn't have to do 80,000 things with, each kid at a different age. I can't go through, here's my science book. And when I was teaching in Catholic school, I was teaching 150 kids a day. And for a year that I was teaching 4th, 5th, and 6th grade science throughout. And I was teaching a bunch of other stuff too, but science, it would be each hour, my 4th graders, 5th graders, 6th graders. The book was exactly the same for all 3 grades, except the vocabulary got a little bit more intense. If that's what they're learning in school, they're using the same spine basically for all of those years. They're just ramping it up. That's easy peasy to do in a homeschool situation. So you're not driving yourself crazy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of what you were explaining about flow also applies. I think our first year of homeschooling, like I mentioned, we're midstream, everybody could read by that point. I
Hmm.
had a middle schooler and then anyway, seventh grade and down from there. But that first year of homeschooling, I told myself it was a grace period. Like we're just going to give ourselves this year to figure it out.
100% true.
And they're not going to, it's not the whole concern about they're going to be so far behind, we're going to miss something, whatever. But let's just give ourselves a chance to figure this out. So that was a big help. Okay, good deal. So all that together, that hopefully that is helpful to folks who are new to this game.
Well, I remember, I'm just going to throw this into that. I remember when my youngest daughter was in eighth grade, I'd say, because it was before the COVID lockdown, which kind of happened into her freshman year. And she was seeing her kids at her theater school who were all, doing all this extra, this stuff in math and this stuff in science and oh, mom, they have so much homework every night. And she was afraid she wouldn't keep up. And I said, honey, they're getting assigned all of this because the teacher only really has about 15 minutes with them to teach the concept, and then they have to practice it at home. We're doing the practice right there at home. You don't need homework. You're practicing when we're doing that subject. And I promise you, you will end up absolutely fine. And she was just like, no, and the school system they're in, they're all going to go to these Ivy League colleges. And flash forward to last year, she's a senior. Most of these kids who had been killing themselves, some got into Ivy League colleges and still didn't choose them because of the cost. And some didn't. Some were just horrified. They were like, "What do you mean I'm going to go to like this state college? It's a good state college in Pennsylvania, but what do you mean I didn't get into Northwestern or Harvard or?" And I had promised her, "You're learning. You're actually taking it in because you're doing it in a way that you enjoy, and you will be 100% fine." And sure enough, she got recruited by her college, not only into her faith-based scholarship program, but got almost a full ride to be a pre-med student.
Wow.
She did fine.
Yeah.
She did fine. She's decided to leave pre-med aside because she's decided it's not her calling. She really actually wants to help people in a way that's not quite as physically intense and focused on that. And but it was very much her, like she was on Dean's list and she walked away from a pre-med scholarship. So you're teaching your kids to know themselves, to know what they love, what's going to give them life, and who it is who gifts them with all of their gifts and talents. It's going to be okay, moms and dads. I promise.
Yeah.
Promise.
That is, it is something, especially at COVID when we were seeing people come into homeschooling because uh, it was the option. It was always interesting for me. We've homeschooled all the way through all of our kids, but those are some of the first questions. Like basically, like, do I need a schoolroom? Do we need desks? Do we need? And it was just reminding me, and what you're saying here is that we have this idea that the modern school system is the way. It has to be done in this way, very regimented, and you think this hasn't been done this way for that long, and actually we're seeing all sorts of negative effects from the way that it's been done. So homeschooling is our chance to kind of step back and say, let's look at the way this could be done in the context of, or maybe it was done a while ago. I like that too, a reminder.
Yeah. Yep. And more, and a lot like in some respects, how the whole long span of life is outside of the school setting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And unfortunately, I will say that this idea of having time to build relationship with your children, having time to do working, talking, praying, and playing together every day, having time to serve one another at home and serve others either from your home, or going out and doing service together, as opposed to dad goes to his men's group to do service and mom goes to the women's group to do service and the kids are in youth group to do service. Look for things you can do together. There's a lot out there. We can do a whole nother podcast on
Yeah.
that. But when you
Yeah.
do that, you're creating a whole person and you're getting time to influence, direct, and love your children. Because I can't tell you the moms that I've talked to who are like, it all went by so fast. I didn't get any time with them. And now they're, 5 hours away at school. And enjoy the time you have. Not that every day is going to be perfect. I want people to know if you're not having a good day or week or semester or whatever that is, first of all, reach out to people who can really guide you through it. That's why the home app is there. It's home. It's HOM, Households on Mission, and we answer questions all day long. Just text back and forth. For anybody who's a member, every month we have a live like this, like us just talking to each other, and people can come with their questions, their successes, everything, and we just do that for an hour. That's happening once a month. Be with people who have a little bit more experience. I remember a neighbor of mine saying, "Okay, this worked, this worked, this worked. This product did not work for us, and here's why." Get the resources, get the guidance, because you don't have to do this all by yourself, but appreciate that time. Use it to enjoy each other and learn together. And then you have this relationship where your children feel respected. In the long run, you feel respected. There are going to be moments when you don't, but you will. And that builds the foundation for that relationship with your adult children later on. So it's not just like, okay, bye to you. I'm never coming back to this house. You can you're more likely. Nothing's 100%. Everybody has free will, unfortunately, right? But there's a much better chance that you'll have a good, healthy adult relationship, or at least the foundation to work one out if you spent that time together and not made it so regimented.
Like that. So you alluded to it, and that was where I was hoping to go next. Navigating hard seasons. You mentioned day, week, month, year, semester. Yes. Okay. Also, other types of hard seasons in the family life, not necessarily school specific. Hard seasons. Talk to us about living well those circumstances. I mean, yeah.
I mean, there are so many, and I actually had a very long, hard season when I was homeschooling my older kids. I had a very difficult disease with seizures and a lot of other things that on certain days I just wasn't up to, let's go take that walk in the woods. But I could do, okay, we're gonna do couch school today. And I have a very good friend of mine, Rachel Watkins, does a segment every Friday on More to Life.
Yeah.
She has 11 kids. She also has MS.
Hmm.
She's gone through her husband's lost jobs many, many times. And we would talk, okay, how are we going to do this? What are you doing? How realizing that, A, if you cover math and teaching your kids to read, the rest is just the frosting on the cake, because once they learn to read, as they get older, they can be reading books to you while you're laying there not feeling well. And you just say, all right, this is what school's going to be like for this season. It probably won't last forever. If you've gone through the loss of a baby, you just take that time to say, okay, we've got to get at least math and phonics done today, or a little bit of writing done today. But mom's just really sad. And you talk about how sad you are. And you talk about how hard it is to know what God meant in your life. And you have those times together of, yeah, we're going to watch for Science Day, we're going to watch the biography of Einstein, or we're going to watch all the American Girl videos because we want to, or whatever it is. It's okay to give yourself grace and space to breathe. And that includes, if you have to go visit grandma in the nursing home every single day, well, the kids can sit on the floor and bring some of their books to read and things to do while you're taking care of grandma, or be telling grandma about what they learned today. Or if she's well enough, let grandma tell them about what it was like when she was 15 years old. Think outside workbooks are the only way to go, and give yourself a ton of grace, because the teacher at school can call in a substitute and you really can't, but you have to realize you're teaching your children how to navigate different seasons of life when you're doing this. So that I think is the thought to keep with you when you're going through difficult times.
That's so valuable because they're going to encounter those of their own.
Yes.
And how do they, if they have no experience with seeing, how do we deal with this? Like that's going to be a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the school system, they're not allowed to have those feelings. So I know when my dad died when I was 5 years old, um, there was no space back then for any kind of comfort or guidance or I lost my dad right before my first grade year, and another little boy in our class lost his dad in the line of duty. His father was a cop. And they treated us like you just keep on marching. And we had to take our reading placement tests and we had to go to school every day. And that's not mentally healthy. It's a lot more mentally healthy to take the time with your kids and say, all right, we're going to get done what we can get done today. You will learn scholastically, but let's have some time together. Let's have some comfort. Let's take some time to pray. Let's take some time for rest because that's a very important thing that you're teaching them adult coping skills, which they're going to use every single day, where algebra, unless, they're an engineer, probably not. So,
Oh, those skills are hugely important. The life living, like
yes.
dealing with stuff. Yes. Okay. So then making sort of a big shift here, nearing the end of homeschooling, the end of that chapter, however it's coming, looking into the next one. How do you like to guide parents there?
Well, if I'm lucky enough to catch their ear before they hit that stage, I will say be friends with your spouse the whole time. And that doesn't mean you need to like get the Friday night date night. Good luck. That's nice, but somebody's going to come down with, whooping cough or, the babysitter's going to, have a boyfriend problem and you're not going to be able to go out more times than that. But if you're doing this working, talking, playing, praying thing and the other things in the liturgy of domestic church life, when they go, first of all, make sure you're connecting with them and saying, I want to hear from you every single day. Just a text. Let me know how you're doing. I need to know you're alive. Um, and let's talk at least once a week. Let's do a Zoom call. So you're connecting with them, you know what's going on in their life. You're not waiting 12 weeks till you see them again because you want to keep that connection. But if you've kept up that relationship with your spouse, and I can speak this as complete truth for Greg and I, now that our last child is in college and she's 6 hours away. So we only see her for those event moments, those breaks in the year. I mean, even this weekend, we were just sitting there going, this is so nice. Like, it's quiet, and we get to watch what we want to watch and go see what we want to see and do the things we want to do. So we've put all this work into it, but we also have made sure that we're connecting and loving each other through those years. And then, hey, give yourself a chance to recover. Don't think you have to, especially the moms who, if you're the ones who have been doing the full-time work, um, on homeschooling your kids. You don't have to jump into learning pickleball like the minute your kid leaves the house. Everybody's going to tell you, join a group, join a book group, play pickleball, take a class. How about you just breathe
Yeah.
and take care of what you have to take care of, but just enjoy the peace and quiet and be able to think just for yourself instead of for everybody else that you've been taking care of all of these years. And then just let God bring to the top the things that bless your life, the things that you want to reach out with, the things that you enjoy doing that you probably do not remember ever having had a chance to do. And kind of let that come. Don't, I'd say, don't overpack your schedule trying to fill the quiet, just as I would say, do not overpack your family activities when you're raising them. Make sure you have that time for yourself. And then those things that God's calling you to in the next stage of your life will come to the top and they'll be a blessing.
Okay. Is there more you want to say in the way of guidance or encouragement for homeschooling families that we've covered a ton of ground? Is there more that we haven't that you want to say that we haven't gotten to yet?
I will say again, even when you're going into those crazy, crazy seasons. So one of our home members just asked this question a couple of weeks ago on the home app, and he was like, we know him. He's been a member on home for a couple of years now. And he said, you know me, you know my schedule. He is the head of music ministry at their giant church. I think it's their cathedral. And he's in charge of all the music for all of the Triduum. And it's a whole thing for him. And he's like, and my wife is coaching basketball and she's home educating kids. And like, how do we always prioritize having at least a few minutes with your children every day? And if you can, please get time alone with each one of them. Rachel Watkins, who I mentioned, who has 11 kids, each kid had a different color. And when one of either mom or dad had to run an errand to the supermarket or the hardware store, or it was that kid's turn for that week, because they got to go alone and have time just to talk to mom and dad. That worked with 11 kids. For us, my husband would take each kid out on a Wednesday night, like alternating Wednesday nights, just for dinner and dessert. Like sometimes they do something even more fun, but it was alone. Because it's very easy as big homeschooling families to love people as a group, and they don't feel loved as an individual. So make that time for that, and then schedule all the other stuff and say, maybe we don't have time for all these extras this year. And we're going to pray together over the summer or toward the end of the school year when you're signing up for the next thing. You're going to pray about, is it healthy for you as a family? Is it healthy for your finances? Is it going to give you all time to breathe? Those are things to consider. And it can be a both end. It can be, well, we can't do travel sports, but you can sign up for this intramural sport. You can't sign up for the drama play in the spring and the musical in the fall. Pick one or the other because we need some breath. What works for you? It can be a both end. It's not, unless you're going through one of those hard seasons that we're talking about. If mom and dad are dealing with, career crisis, one of the grandparents is ill, and you're pregnant, you win. You get to say, not this year, guys. We have other things that God wants us to focus on. And remember, they're not going to not succeed in something because they skipped a semester or a year of extracurriculars. The most important socialization they can get is with mom and dad and their siblings. That is real socialization. It's great if you can do the other things, but they learn how to navigate the world, and their lifelong relationships start with mom and dad.
Yeah. Okay.
It seems like this has come up in several of the podcasts recently, but that, going back to, again, relationship with our Lord, with God, and relationships in our family. If seems like those are the focuses of our life, then everything else will fall into place.
With
Right?
God's grace, keep inviting that grace in. Lord, we don't, it's fine. But lay in bed with your spouse and say, Lord, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
We are 4 years old and we're supposed to be parenting all these kids. We do not know what we're doing. Help us to figure it out and give us the grace to do it tomorrow. Be honest with God. He's not asking for you to be perfect. He's asking you to turn to him.
Like the continual and perennial thing, the relational piece. That is
Yes.
I don't think there's a finish line for that. It's a continual
Not till
thing.
we get to heaven.
Yeah. True.
And then we'll all be together in that communion of saints. So really turning to him constantly. And if people are like you were saying, Stephen, like this is not how we normally pray. Greg and I did a book. It's still in publication, thanks be to God. It's called Discovering God Together. How to really have a solid Catholic relationship with God that you and your children discover together. We also have parenting with, well, we've split it now. So it's parenting your kids with grace, which I think is birth to 10, and then parenting your teens and tweens with grace. The publisher asked us to split it because there's so much going on in the world of teenagers now. So we have those two parenting books out there, and then we're there every day on the Catholic Home app, so you can download that. It does have a membership fee, but it's a very nominal one for the incredible amount of stuff that you get. It's not just the constant day-long coaching, but it's downloadables and it's a community and it's lives and it's just the downloadables for this month, just for Lent alone, where it's really showing you how to make Lent draw your family closer to God, even your children closer to God, because it's so easy to go to that rigorous, well, we're all going to give up dessert. Kids don't understand why. We're all going to do this. Taking your kids to Stations of the Cross can be really difficult with littles. It's long. It's a lot of movement that they don't quite understand how specific it is. And I know for some kids, they're really traumatized by some of those images. Like I remember my 3-year-old, my middle child, just dissolving into tears when she was looking at the cross. And it was one of these very old-fashioned crosses with really what Jesus went through, very represented. And she talked to Jesus every day, and suddenly her best friend, as she said, had a boo-boo. He's hurting. Like, what can I do? So we have all the Stations of the Cross done in the style of the art for the Catholic Home app. My son, who does all the art for that, did it. And we decided last night that starting next month, these will be part of the downloadables for the month. So you can do the Stations of the Cross at home. You can do one a night. You can do them as a flip book. You can put them up in your yard. You can put them up around the house. And there's nothing that will be very challenging for a small child, but it's the images are enough to really go much deeper with your teens and the adults in your home. So that's available. So it's I think truly we're doing all we can to provide as much as we can for Catholic families who really, really need the support these days. And then there's more to life every day. Call in because we're there taking questions for an hour live. You can get whatever you need.
That's amazing to me. You guys been at it for a while, and just the timing of it, how you're able to zero in on what the issue is and kind of address that particular piece and do it within the time limits that you have, but really make a connection with folks. That's just amazing to me. Do you have any stories you want to tell us about radio life and all these years on the radio?
All these years on the radio. Other than the fact that I just want to give major props to anybody who or didn't know the wonderful Al Cresta, who we just lost this year, who was the president of Ave Maria Radio. And he had Greg on 20 plus years ago and came back and said, how about we turn this into a show? And then after a few months, he said, I really want Lisa to do this with you. And I think it needs a voice for married couples and for moms and dads. And he was really the one who got this really all rolling and was such a support. And when we told him about the liturgy of domestic church life, he said, this is the future of the church. This is what the church needs. If we are going to evangelize the next generation, this is how we evangelize the next generation, and that we create families that are healthy and wonderful together. And when he passed on this year, we had the privilege of being at his funeral, and all of his children and grandchildren were at this funeral. And it was the most joyful, sacred experience to be at his funeral mass. And I went, this is why he got the Liturgy of Domestic Church Life, because this is how he raised his kids. And every single one of Al's children is a faithful, vibrant, amazing Catholic human being. So I just want to, really give him credit where credit was due, and just pray that Ave Maria Radio and EWTN keeps being able to serve people the way they've been serving people all this year. So if you listen to Catholic radio, please support it with your prayers and whatever you can give, because it is very much there because of the people who do that. And so thank you for that.
His daughter Alexis was part of a podcast series for a while that I found just fascinating.
She's the best, like the most amazing woman. So yeah.
I skipped over, I realized the Liturgy of Domestic Church Life. We talked about that with your husband a bit on the episode with him. So we'll link that in our show notes. From your perspective, tell us about it from your perspective. And for those who haven't heard that yet, do you want to dive a little bit deeper on that?
Well, I mean, I mentioned it earlier on, and it really is it's a way to understand that how we live as a family is actually liturgical. And we're not just using that in a very like, your coffee cup can be liturgical kind of way, which is kind of becoming a thing on social media. It's that a liturgy isn't something that can just be thought up by people. It's something that's instituted, right? So nobody said, hey, you know what? Let's turn bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. No, God had to do that himself. And through the symposium that we did at Notre Dame right before the pandemic, what came out of that think tank was when we live together intentionally in a way that has a structure, but a structure that's unique to each family, because each family and each person is unique and unrepeatable. So this is not, you have to do this craft this way, and you have to dress in green these days of the year and red these days of the year. This is how to get closer to God and to each other in a way that has a structure that you can make unique to you, that allows your family to grow closer to each other and to God in a way that flows for your family. So, you mentioned Alexa, like Alexa is phenomenal, but I watch her stories on Instagram all the time, and like I'm not the one who's going to be digging my own well, and I'm not the one who's going to be, necessarily doing the farm thing, and she does it brilliantly. And then is also taking all the kids to see, the canonization in Rome this year. But that works for her. For us, we live in a different area, a different thing, and different configuration and different personalities. But this structure still works. So this idea of prioritizing the rite of Christian relationship, the rite of family rituals, which is those working, playing, talking, praying thing. Now, let me be serious here. People say, oh, well, as long as we work, talk, play, and pray together, we're fine. No, the first rite of the Liturgy of Domestic Church Life is the rite of Christian relationship. So it's really about connecting with your family. It's about extreme amounts of affection because 80% of kids do not get the affection that they need. And all the studies say that children who get more affection from their parents excel in every single area of life, especially their mental health as adults. Kids who don't get enough affection from their parents, and I mean a tussle of the hair, a hug in the morning, your eyes light up. You make sure you hug them before they go to school, when they wake up in the morning, when they're going through a hard time, before they go to bed. You sit there and all cuddle up and read a book together. Those kids, as I said earlier, when somebody approaches them, whether it's a predator or a date, and try to cross certain lines, they're going to shy away from that. They're going to be like, I know what real affection is. This ain't it. This is use. So they'll learn the difference, as Mary Beth Bonacci puts it so well in her book that she wrote years ago, the difference between real love and pizza love. Mary Beth Bonacci's incredible author. Her books are still out there. If you're raising teenagers, get her books. She talked about how we all say we love pizza, but if pizza falls on a dirty floor, you're not going to jump and try to save that pizza and dust it off and protect it. That's just wanting pizza. That's using pizza to like make you feel like you had a nice evening and had something yummy to eat. Real love is that love that puts the other person first and works for the other person's good. And so the rite of Christian relationship really builds that in the family. So then when you say, we're going to work together, we're going to play together, the kid's tank is filled up, your tank is filled up. So those things make sense. They're not pushing back and saying, no, I don't want to fold laundry. My daughter, my youngest daughter, in her final playbill, because she was in theater school for all of high school, I'm not going to cry. In her final playbill, I didn't know she was going to do it. I opened up and I read it. And she said, I want to thank my mom for all the talks we had over the years. The talks that we had on the way to theater, back and forth for hours a day. The talks we had while folding the laundry. This kid loves to fold laundry with me because she gets me all to herself and we get to do that. Rachel Watkins' 8 kids love to fold laundry because they would all fold laundry together and talk and chatter. And then the last thing they did before they finished doing the laundry is they had a softball fight. So all the balls, it's like they had like a snowball fight every single time they did laundry because laundry for 11 people is daunting. So you're working to constantly build a foundation in your family and then remember the people outside of your family that need service, that need that extra meal that you can make together, that need you to go and shovel their snow as a family because they're too old to shovel their snow. You do the reaching out as a family and as an act of service to show people God's love rather than what unfortunately is happening in schools across the nation and unfortunately Catholic ones, just to get it ticked off because you need service hours to graduate. That is not reaching out. That's doing something so that you can get that need met, and it's not a real act of love. So again, it's the rite of Christian relationship, the rite of family rituals, and the rite of reaching out. And as you do that together, you're building a really firm connection between each other and each one of you with God. And it's a pretty beautiful way to live.
We will have links in our show notes to the Catholic Home and More to Life and Momfidence and CatholicCounselors.com as well. Thank you so much for everything you have given to us over the years and in this time together, and know of our prayers for you and your ministry and your family. Thank you so much, Mrs. Popcak. Please come visit with us again.
That's very kind, and I'm looking forward to it. God bless you.
Subscribe to the Kolbecast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@kolbe.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Ignatius of Loyola, holy saints and angels, pray for us. Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam.